People who had one baby and then decided never again. What happened? We were good. One healthy baby is to be thankful for. Families are expensive. My sister had an exceptionally difficult pregnancy that nearly killed her. Her doctor told her a second pregnancy would be even riskier. Didn't get the help I expected from my other half. Plus, kids are expensive. I've also been able to stay home for almost 2 years. Wouldn't be able to do that with a second. We both nearly died in childbirth, didn't fancy doing that again. She then didn't sleep for more than 3 hours for the next 5 years. Oh, and no family support whatsoever. Fuck doing all that again. Pregnancy was perfect. Baby was healthy according to the GYN. Had traumatic birth that ended with an emergency C-section. Kid is now 12 and has multiple handicaps and won't ever be able to take part in society. She'll need lifelong care. Never again. I would have loved to have had more than one baby, but we were broke. Daycare is so expensive. Healthcare is so expensive. Clothes and activities and lessons and all the things are so expensive. Quitting after my first was 100 due to financial reasons. My sister was going to have a second baby, but he passed away while in the womb. And from there she decided never again. And is just raising my nephew. The first year of sleep deprivation absolutely wreaked me. I swore never again. Infertility. Went through IVF. Got one embryo and she is now a few months old and is perfect. Tough pregnancy physically but also emotionally. My mom died suddenly when I was 15 weeks. My dad got diagnosed stage 4 cancer the day my daughter was born. Traumatic labor and delivery. Induced and needed blood transfusion. Would have to go through IVF again most likely. It has been a year. Sometimes I feel like the universe required me to sacrifice my parents in order to have a perfect baby. I rationally know this is not true and not how it works lol, but sometimes my mind goes there. One and done. We don't live near any family and are in a call area. One kid means we can go on fun vacations. I also had a traumatic birth and still remember that doctor telling me to not let this impact my decision on future kids. My kid is great. She calls our dog her sister. I'm pregnant with our first and only. I loathe being pregnant and never want to do this again. Well, it was twins. Also, they were born at 25 weeks and spent 6 months in the hospital. Never again. They're doing good now, totally toddler terrorists. I knew I always wanted one kid. Can't afford to have a second and I had bad postpartum. I'm at a good place in my life and I feel if I have another kid, I would be miserable. I'm happy with one. Postpartum depression, anxiety and psychosis. It was enough to scare us into never trying again. That was truly the most terrifying time in my life and it took away my desire to love my newborn. I still have guilt to this day 13 years later for not giving our son a sibling. I got pregnant while on birth control NuvaRing when he was 5, but miscarried at 14 weeks. It may sound weird, but I took that as a sign that we did the right thing by not having any more. We always knew we would have only one. Being pregnant sucked. He ended up being premature and then there was a whole other stuff because he was premature. I had a 4th degree tear and then an RVF and then correctional surgery, pelvic floor therapy, PPA and other general anxiety that wasn't so bad until I had a kid. I'd rather be alive and well for one than not around for two. Got cheated on when baby was 5 months old. I got postpartum preeclampsia and was hospitalized for 3 days a week after my baby was born. I almost had help. And I had to see a cardiologist because they thought I might have had postpartum cardiomyopathy. So, never again. I had placenta previa and bled 4 times before having to stay at the hospital for the remainder of my pregnancy. That lasted about 4 days because I bled 2 more times and had to have exsection at almost 31 weeks. Baby was in the NICU growing, no medical issues, thank God, for 7 weeks. I'd rather not try again. We're happy with one and we don't have room in our house for another. Well, nothing happened. I have always been on the fence on how many kids I'd want to have. 1, maybe 2, that was always the thought. I had 1 and felt that was enough and I am happy. Spouse has 2 children and he also feels he is content. So there's no need to have more. I don't have children, but I am an only child and I absolutely loved it. I don't understand why only children one and done families sometimes get judged so hard. I really think it can be one of the best family dynamics. Obviously there are downsides, just like with everything, but I have zero complaints and never wanted a sibling. If you're feeling bad about wanting to be one and done, don't. Our closest friends had one kid. The wife told my wife her husband didn't help at all, so she avoids sleeping with him because he wants another. Being pregnant sucks. I had a healthy pregnancy, but it's just physically difficult to get through. Not me, but my uncle and aunt are probably the happiest married couple I've ever seen. High school sweethearts, still deeply in love. During the birth there were many complications. My uncle had to be restrained by security and locked in another room. He tried to punch out some folks, tried to throw a chair. I think at one point, she was gonna bleed out on the table and he was ready to kill the doctor. Everything ended up being fine, but they both basically said they're never having kids again, and they didn't. My cousin is almost 30 now. It's actually so fucking difficult, even with plenty of finances and support. From pregnancy to birth to baby phase, fuck me. We're 6.5 months in and we're happy, not doing that again. I'm a single mom. When I gave birth in 2020, it was so traumatic that I developed PTSD and am still in therapy for it. I also have ADHD and autism and have realized that being a mom leads me to be way more overstimulated than I anticipated. Finally, I'm at a cheap daycare and pay $240 per week for one preschooler. No way I can afford a second kid. My current kid deserves the best childhood possible, and that requires a financially and mentally stable parent. We knew we wanted one or two. I got pregnant with twins. Pregnancy has been rough and I'm likely to have multiples again if I get pregnant again. It's in my chart to remove my ovaries when I give birth. There's no way we are doing this again. Can't wait to love the boys when they come, but I'm not interested in collecting kids. Morning sickness, wanted to be able to travel easily with my child, wanted to be a mom but didn't want kids to completely take over my life. We were one and done by choice. It was either 0 or 1 for us. We had our one and that was it. I never wanted an extended kid-centric lifestyle. I enjoy free time, downtime, and money lol. My boy is 11 now and having one is a breeze. We almost lost our son at 4 weeks. He's 13 now, but his kidneys are already on their way out. He doesn't deserve such bad luck. We couldn't risk another poorly child, so we called it at 1. Colic. Holy crap. Never again. 53-hour labor ending with emergency C-section. Pelvis separated 3 meters on crutches, nearly died after C-section, hellish sleep deprivation, followed by miscarriages and genetic news that sealed the decision to stop. We experienced secondary infertility, and decided that art was not for us. That the child we had was plenty. And then last year, I had to have uterus surgery because I had one fibroid the size of a fucking wiffle ball growing attached to my uterus, and one fibroid the size of a golf ball in my uterus, and a uterine polyp. Now, at 48, I am menopausal, and my husband, at 54, is completely unwilling to consider anything involving starting over. I didn't get more than 4 hours of unbroken sleep for almost 10 months and could not deal with the sleep deprivation again. I could do pregnancy again. I can't do those newborn months again. We had 2, but people don't realize how extremely difficult having a baby is. We intended on having 3, but it's just too much, and my kids are pretty darn good by most standards. 0 health, behavioral, mental, learning etc. issues. The first few months are a total shock to the system, and it's completely understandable why someone would not want to go through it again. My kid is a fucking nightmare. Seriously, I love him, but it's so incredibly exhausting. It was difficult conceiving the first. The second would have most likely required IVF, and we weren't about to spend that kind of dollar. My wife had a lot of health problems and complications during her pregnancy. We were very lucky that she and our baby were both healthy afterwards. Neither of us wanted to risk trying for another. She wasn't an easy newborn, but that wasn't all of it. I decided very early on that I didn't want to have any more children with her father, and I just haven't bothered with relationships since then. Now I'm 42 and the thought of starting over with a newborn gives me hives. Gestures vague.